Well, good morning, and Brian, thank you very much for that introduction. That was a fascinating presentation from John there, and I'll just pick up on that image of the iPhone stuck to the glasses as the sort of modern virtual reality. But actually, interestingly, the latest cover of Forbes had a story about and this will really make you ill, about a 21-year-old kid on a 30 under 30 list who just sold his virtual reality product to Facebook for $2 billion. But the point there is that, and John was making, is that it's the continuation of innovating and making change. And in many ways, virtual reality could go back to probably the 13th century. I think spectacles were made in 1286. So it's just another reiteration as we go through different trends and people revitalize and refresh their products. And it's the same with native. Native isn't new. Native is advertorial. It's been around for many, many years. If you Google native, the first thing that comes up is it's a form of online advertising. And of course, native, the word native, and it's a word that's sort of overused, but it's obviously, it's a fantastic opportunity for publishers, and it's a fantastic opportunity for Forbes to let the marketers immerse themselves within the natural flow of content on our site, and for them to have a richer and deeper engagement with our audience. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we think native's going, what native is, what's working, what's not working. We've built a sustainable model for advertising-supported journalism. We've built a credible platform for marketers to publish content on our site, using exactly the same content management system that all of our journalists and all of our contributors use on a day-to-day basis. This is a quote from our Chief Product Officer, Louis Dvorkin, on what his take of native is, and he's certainly been the catalyst behind the native space at Forbes and us taking a sort of a pioneering, leading position on this. He says the best digital media, edit or ads, is organic, built from the ground up. And this last bit's the most interesting bit in my mind. It's not bolted or welded to the side of something new. And I can sort of show you different examples of what I mean by that. So, to my point, native advertising, it's been around longer than you think. This image here is from the Honolulu Advertiser in 1927. And this is the real golden age of print. It was an 80-page advertorial to mark the opening of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. You can see the image, you can see the ad. Actually, funnily enough, in Forbes here, the cover after this is actually, for the first time in the history of Forbes, and we're almost 100 years, we actually had a brand advertiser on the cover. If I flick here, the next cover is 30 under 30, and it's AT&T Voice, interestingly. So what's changed, or what does the landscape look like? Well, with the rise of native advertising or brand journalism or the art of storytelling, whatever you want to call it, or content marketing, it's safe to say these practices are all merging, and it's causing an enormous amount of disruption within a century of journalistic tradition. And the blurring of the lines certainly agitates the news purists as their employers look to drive new revenue models or to reach bigger goals or for more profitability. From a Forbes point of view, we've sort of created a model that we think is a new media model. It's a model for the future of social journalism. And we had to do it because on this slide, this is what we thought was happening and what we think is happening in the marketplace. Journalism collided with digital publishing. Digital publishing collided with social media. And social media is colliding with mobile. And that's the state of play. That's how we see the landscape at the moment. Editors no longer have the same control. Anyone can publish at any point, any time, anywhere in the world. PR companies, marketers, journalists are all converging in one single conversation. There's many, many different voices participating, and it's all on a digital screen. There's no longer this barrier or wall. There's no longer this church versus state. In a world of edit and advertising, the key takeaway is transparency and clear labeling. And of course, this is vastly different. This is a vastly different era compared to, again, this sort of century-old process. And consequently, the economics behind publishing, or the economics behind web publishing, in many ways are sort of fundamentally broken. And really, all the audience actually wants is great content. They want great content, but they want to know who's speaking, who's talking, or what particular vantage point that they're coming from. So content is content. That's our holistic overview. And you can see here on these slides, you can see that it's IBM talking. This is a native advertising partner. We've had about 60 of these brands across a whole different cross-section of verticals and industries. So it's IBM, you know who's talking, and then it can drill down into the individual within IBM. So it could be a lead engineer, it could be a software developer, it could be one of their C-level executives, it could be just a thought leader within their business that's posting content on our site. And it looks exactly the same. It's the same page as the staff writer or the contributors page. And again, the IBM people are using exactly the same content management system as the journalists and the contributors on our site. So what's working? Good content, naturally, is working. Sharing, transparency. Every story on Forbes, you can see how many times it's been viewed. You can see how many times it's been shared. You can go on the homepage and there's a real-time ticker of how many stories we've published today, how many comments it's had, how many shares it's had in the social space. Standardization, measurement, all of these are, you know, the best practices that the most successful brand voice partners use and have done for, in the instance of, say, SAP or Oracle, almost 4 years. They've been paying us every single month to publish content on our site. So this is you know, a couple of slides on what's working, what's not working. So we'll take fidelity voice. So now you're into a post. This is what the post looks like on the site. Again, it's very clear that it's fidelity. The headline is exactly like a journalist headline. It's not about fidelity. This isn't a platform for fidelity to wax lyrical about their financial products. It's for them to give a take or an insight or a perspective of, in this case, a pension buyout offer. This is from Vanity Fair. This is a campaign that Hennessy did. This is more of a kind of a native video. So Hennessy, the title, fuels our chase for the wild rabbit. But what does it all mean? And you have the video below that. And then BuzzFeed, certainly a kind of another sort of pioneer in the native space. And you can see this post that HarperCollins did. That's also obviously entwined within the flow of content on their site. So we've been doing this for 4 years, is when we launched. It was actually called Ad Voice, and now it's turned into, it was rebranded Brand Voice. But there's many different other publishers and news. Actually, it doesn't matter what vertical. There's many different publishers coming out with native solutions in some shape or form. And with different offerings or different solutions that they think is going to work for their partners. But what we see more and more, and we don't believe that it's working, is that what it involves is invariably these very expensive custom publishing hubs or studios where they recruit more journalists or they take existing journalists to produce content for their marketers, which invariably look like microsites on X publisher's site. So increasingly those experiences, though, they are completely divorced from the news, or whatever the site is, the news site's natural flow of content. Versus, I just showed you the brand voice posts, they seamlessly integrate into the site. The brand voice posts are searchable and discoverable on Forbes.com just in the same way that a story is that's written by an editor or by a contributor. This is what Dell did here. This is a campaign that Dell did. It was put together by this studio. It sits there on the New York Times. and aesthetically it looks fantastic, but it's kind of like a microsite on the site. How do I find that, for example? How does the audience find that, and what value in terms of content is that adding? This is a well drawn out story, so I don't need to harbour too much on this, but the Scientology one. The interesting point here is that these folks didn't necessarily believe that the marketer's content could add to the natural flow, which is why this just simply didn't work and got so much pickup in the press. Then you have the trends of labeling. I talk about labeling, and we heard Ben's presentation yesterday. Their brand Speak, for example. Ours is Brand Voice, or the Washington Post is Brand Connect. So everyone's using different ways of labeling. This is pin interest. They actually have native pins within the pins. So everyone's doing sort of tackling it in a different way. But how do we lead in native advertising? And I've just sort of added this slide in. Partly it sort of attributes a little bit to native advertising and what we're doing, but I put it in because the subject matter of culture came up in the publisher's conversation next door that Tim was running. And I think what we've done is, just to give a little bit of context, we've fundamentally changed the culture of publishing by turning the content model upside down on its head. And 4 years ago, what we did is we invited contributors, and when I say contributors, this is a mix of opinion leaders or business leaders or freelance journalists or academics, to write and publish alongside the journalists, again, using all the same tools on Forbes.com. We also changed the labor model. We don't pay any of these contributors, so our newsroom grew to probably now about 1,600 people, of which probably 1,500 of those are contributors. But we don't pay these contributors a salary. We pay these individuals by how many followers they have. So the larger the audience they build, the more money we pay them. That caused a lot of disruption within the traditional media world. And then lastly, we have this, and more relevant to everyone here in the room, is we changed the advertising model by inviting advertisers to write alongside the journalists and the contributors, and then paying us a tenancy fee each month to do that. So I'm just going to play a short video. It's a minute, but it just encapsulates what brand voice is in sight, sound, and motion. So.
Brands today have more ways than ever to reach people, and more competition than ever for their attention. With millions of voices out there, it's easy for your message to get lost. Just having a message isn't enough. You must reach people where they are, with the information they want, when they want it. The world's largest brands are doing just that through our pioneering platform, Forbes Brand Voice. Brand Voice lets you, the marketer, tell stories and share insights, elevating your brand to the center of the conversation. It's all based on a fundamental understanding that your brand story can be just as enticing or engaging as any other story. Brand voice equals native discovery, social, search, brand building, and storytelling. So, why Forbes? As one of the most trusted brands in the world, Forbes lends its credibility and expertise to your message. This is your opportunity to access titans of industry, influencers, and decision makers with the Forbes team at your side. Speak for yourself.
So there we go. Thank you very much. That's our story. I hope you found that interesting. And any questions or?